cannabis has totally turned my health around. I mean, like a complete night and day difference. I was sleeping most of the day when I was at my sickest, and I could barely get up and down the stairs. Um, I was really miserable. I was in constant pain, but on top of that, it was just hard for me to move around at all because I was so inflamed all the time. Everything was just so swollen all the time. It was just hard for me. I felt like I was stuck inside my body. I felt like betrayed by it. And I didn't want to be that person. And then when you're in pain like that all the time, you get depressed. And then it's like, is this my path forever? And is this going to be how I'm going to parent from bed? I'm going to parent my kids that way. So when I say I was desperate before, I was really desperate. And, but then when I switched, it was like night and day. I was eating again, but I was also, you could see that I was moving around more, which helped out. And that I just got in a better mood. I started to go out more. It's like I came back alive. That's really what it was. Even if I wasn't so sick before and like dying, which like my body basically was, I was so desperate at that time that I was begging God to kill me because I was just in so much pain constantly, and nobody can live that way. So now the fact that like I'm super busy all the time, I'm super involved in my kids' lives. I'm involved in everything I can be involved in my town, in my kids' schools, now in Trenton, and at huge levels that I never would have seen my life going this way. But it's hard not to talk about it when you've seen what a difference it made for me personally. When I see what kind of difference it made for me, it's hard for me to not talk to people about it and encourage them to just try it. I'm not saying pharmaceuticals are bad. There's a place for them. I still am on some pharmaceuticals, and I try to always make that clear that people need medicine sometimes too, but this is medicine also. You can use it with what you're already, working on with your doctor. Um, That's a good question. I get that question a lot, specifically because I'm a parent. I get that question a lot, whether I feel like stigma more than anyone else. Luckily, I'm blessed with amazing friends. I don't have a whole bunch of family, but again, I think my family that maybe in the past would have been more standoffish to it, they witnessed it though. So it's hard to not be pro something that you saw someone you love dying and then they came back to life after switching it, no matter what it was. If it was water, people would endorse that. It's just hard not to. I think it's hard for people to stigmatize me when they've watched it. But specifically, no, I really haven't experienced much stigma. Sometimes I do, but I think that some people, for the most part, that are against cannabis are very already committed to not understanding. They're committed to not accepting it, and they're committed to the fact that it's a negative. So those people, if I need to convince you that you deserve better, you're not my audience, because this is common sense. So the doctor that I first went to, I went and told them everything, my background. I brought my documentation of everything, and my pain doctor endorses it, my spine doctor endorses it, my dentist endorsed it. All of my doctors were like, this is a good idea for her. And that doctor, which is no longer with the program, told me, if you don't want to be on pills, you should probably go to rehab. And I said, I was shocked because I wasn't on I have never had an addiction issue in my life, ever. And I'm actually really proud of that because I'm a product of an addict parent. So I feel really strongly about addiction, and forget the fact that I was insulted. I remember just walking out on the phone with my husband and just crying like this was my last resort. And this guy just told me to go to rehab. And it told me that he didn't understand, the program or the benefits of the plan. So luckily, I contacted the director of the county program or overseer at that time, which just happened to be like a town away. And I wanted to just inquire and say, is this usually what doctors tell patients that come in? And fortunately, I did speak to her, and she said, absolutely not. You should never have been told that. I'm going to take care of that, but in the meantime, please come see this doctor, which was next door to her office. So I went there, and they fast-tracked me to get a card. It just consisted of, my documentation of my illnesses, and then speaking to them about it. Then you had to, same as now, upload your forms, upload your picture, and then wait for the card in the mail. But then after that process was different at that time too, because this was years ago. So the program has made some improvements on the process now, and that doctor is no longer in the program. So in the beginning, I started at Garden State Dispensary because they were only 10-15 minutes away. But I was given bad information at that time that someone, an official, told me that I couldn't change dispensaries for a full calendar year if I didn't like one that I switched to. So I couldn't not have Garden State as my dispensary, then try another dispensary, and then if I don't like it, go back to Garden State. That's what I was told at the time, but Garden State didn't have any strains that had THC in them, or they were very, very low THC for multiple months. So there were a lot of us that got this information that was not accurate given to us, so we felt kind of trapped. Finally, I just made the choice that I can't keep going without if this is my medication. So I wanted to go to another dispensary. And Cranberry was the next closest. So I travel to Cranberry. It's about 30-35 minutes from my house, multiple times a week. No, fortunately, I have never been a victim of any discrimination over cannabis. For the most part, I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. I have a good reputation with law enforcement, I think, and it's only recently, in the past year or so probably, that I started really publicly coming out to people maybe that were even my friends that didn't know that I was in the program. I've received nothing but good feedback, but I know that for the majority of people that I'm getting that feedback from, they knew me before, and they respected me before. So I know it happens, and it's super common, and I'm aware, and I am happy to advocate and make that known and work toward fixing that, like the discrimination that patients get. But I personally have not experienced it. This is my favorite topic. Okay. Well, of course, I feel strongly about medical. I feel that the medical program is not done. I feel we still have a lot of work to do. I am grateful for the next round of patients that have come into the program and decided to be advocates. And I hope that they can benefit from the past advocates' experiences going forward. But with recreational, as far as I'm concerned, I think that right now is a really sensitive but exciting time in New Jersey for both topics. I fear that recreational voices are going to drown out medical voices. And as far as whether it's right or not, of course I endorse legalization. I feel that's the only way to really properly support and service the patients that need it most. On the other hand, I feel when people endorse only home grow, I feel they don't have an accurate picture of the patient community in New Jersey. I deal with thousands of patients, and I can tell you for maybe half and half would be able to grow their own, and the other half need somebody to bring it to them. While I understand that recreational is really the way to fix the social injustices and the classism and the stigma, that is recreational and or legalization is the way to get rid of that. However, we need to finish what we started, and the medical program has been out of time. It's 8 years late for these changes, and though I can't say enough good things about Murphy with the changes that he made, it's still late. And that's why we need to keep medical as priority now and going forward, because as we've seen in New Jersey, recreational is not 100 days away. It's just not. That's just a fact. It doesn't matter how anyone feels about it. It's just not tomorrow. But you know what will happen tomorrow? Patients will die waiting. So I think while I support recreational, medical needs to be the forefront of every conversation in New Jersey regarding cannabis.